Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Rage of the Abyss, the TCG's latest core set, has just released, bringing with it exciting new themes and updates to old ones. And as is tradition here on the channel, we're gonna go over all the cards that have just come out that belong to themes we've already covered previously. Buckle up, cause it's time for the ROTA Release Round-Up. Disclosure, not all cards we mention here will be searchable by ROTA. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons, as well as the wonderful people over at Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. Part 1. Allure Queen. Hey, so, you know how we had a whole Animation Chronicles set come out in the OCG with all kinds of new cards? Well, now we've got the follow-up support to build off of those, even though we haven't gotten any of them in the TCG yet. In the vein of the Performage cards, that's not so bad, we already have plenty of those. The Allure Queen cards though, not so much. Very funny release schedule, Konami. Very demure, very functional. Chaos Allure Queen is a level 7 light spellcaster monster with 1500 attack and defense, and you can discard one other light or dark monster to special summon this card from your hand. You can target a monster in either grave and equip it to this card as an equipped spell, and if you do, this card's name becomes that equipped monster's name until the end phase. Then if you equipped a light or a dark monster by this effect, you can special summon a dark Allure Queen monster from your deck or graveyard. So that's kinda goofy, right? We can all see how goofy this is. In theme, you're meant to discard any of your on-theme Allure Queens to get this onto the field. Equip them to it and then take their names so you can use Allure Palace's effect to on-ramp into the rest of the Allure Queen level up path. It even gets you a free Allure Queen for your troubles on top of everything. And imagine how big those equips make your monsters with the help of Allure Dance. But that's just what you can do in Archetype. Because this can mimic the name of any monster that gets thrown into the graveyard, this becomes some quick and easy fusion material for just about everything. Especially if it's a light or a dark monster, cause you get to pitch those to summon out the Chaos Allure. Then, you get to equip it immediately. It can pretend to be an Albaz, Cartesia, or any manner of elemental heroes. This card is a welcome addition to the theme itself, but expect to see this as part of some wacky combos moving forward. And on top of all of that, she even got a whole new fit for the occasion. It's that kind of power you only get from the fashionista monsters. Part 2. Atlantean Mermail. Being a water-themed booster pack, Rage of the Abyss had to be packed full of related themes. Sharks got a big boost, which makes me a bit sad that I've already committed to covering those cards at the 80k sub mark, But we've got more than enough salt water with the Atlantean and Mermail updates. They've even gone so far as to entwine the two themes into one officially. Let's take a look. Abyss Rhine, the Atlantean Spirit, is a level 3 aqua monster with 1600 attack and defense, and is always treated as a Mermail card. You can tribute this card from your hand and an Atlantean or Mermail monster from your hand or field to take a level 7 Fry-type monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except for water monsters. During your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can banish this card from your grave and to discard a card to the graveyard to draw a card. This is like the new best enabler for the deck. You basically never have to commit this to the board, and filters into any of your big level 7 Merlanteans. And even beyond that if you're looking to get a little freaky. But what I really dig is the grave effect, not only helping you dig for hand traps on your opponent's turn to keep them on their toes, but is great for triggering the effects of more of your monsters. As you may remember, many of our on-theme, or on-themes, monsters have effects when sent to the grave to activate the effects of water monsters. So not only is Ryan an enabler during your turn from the hand, it's an enabler during your opponent's turn while in the grave. It's the kind of power that's gonna make you want to yell out, "It's Ryan time!" Mermails Shadow Squad is a level 3 water sea serpent monster with 0 attack and 1900 defense, and is always treated as an Atlantean card. You can discard a card to the graveyard to make all water monsters you currently control become level 7 until the end of the turn. And if this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, special summon a level 4 or lower Atlantean or Mermail monster from your deck, except a copy of this card. Also, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except water monsters. The first effect is pretty nifty as it smooths your level levels over to make all of our cool rank 7s, especially the new one we're going to get into in a bit. And as another card that can be triggered when sent to the grave for a water monster's effect, it's more extension to get even more monsters into rotation. This is another really good addition to the lineup of monsters you want to send as cost, and I look forward to see it being sent to the graveyard to deploy all manner of Merlantean threats in the future. Now, it may seem weird to call them the Shadow Squad considering how loud their outfits and color schemes are, but if you check all the older cards, you'll see that our Atlantean foot soldiers show up as silhouettes a lot of the time, so they may actually be more proficient in this than I thought. Poseidra Abyss, the Atlantean Dragon Lord, is a rank 7 Water Sea Serpent monster with 3000 attack and 1800 defense, requiring 3 level 7 monsters as material. Though once per turn, you can also Xyz summon this card using an Atlantean or Mermail Xyz monster you control, transferring its material over to it. Once per turn, you can detach 2 material from this card, then send a water monster from your hand or deck to the grave as cost, to return up to 3 cards your opponent controls to the hand. And if this Xyz summoned card is sent to the graveyard, you can discard a card to the graveyard to special summon 3 level 3 or lower Fry type monsters from your hand and or grave. So you've got an easy to deploy triple removal monster that, when it goes to graveyard after being summoned properly, basically refunds you what you put into it. And that's only the beginning of how bonkers this card gets. It doesn't care how you send it from the field to the graveyard, so you can use it as a link material, usually for a water monster considering some of the locks we get into. So no SP Little Knight, mostly, but you have plenty of times to make Marincess Coral an enemy. And there's no hard once per turn restrictions on this card, so if one of the monsters you bring back is a Shadow Squad, you can use its effect to turn all the monsters you summoned back into level 7s to hard make Poseidra Abyss and do it all over again. This is some premium boss monster nonsense right here, so you better have a plan to defeat the giant monster with non-targeting removal with a back-breaking floating effect before going into any tournaments. If need be, get a friend to help you think up a strategy. I mean, this Poseidra's already working with 3 heads, so you're going to need all the extra ones you can get your hands on. Mermail King Neptibus is a Link 3 Water Sea Serpent monster with 2300 attack, requiring 2 or more monsters, including a Fry type, as material. Your opponent can't target water monsters this card points to with card effects, and if any number of water monsters are sent to the grave to activate a card or effect, except during the damage step, you can take an Abyss Dash equip spell from your deck or graveyard and either add it to your hand or equip it to this card. And if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add an Atlantean or Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. So the breakdown here is it provides targeting protection to up to 3 other waters, helping to keep them safe while you combo with them, a bonus for whenever you send water monsters to graveyard as cost, this time grabbing you the vaunted equip spells of the theme, and searches you a card when your opponent destroys it. Now, we've got a new equip spell that falls under this category that we'll go over in a bit, but of our current roster, the 3 we have each negate a different card type the first time they see it from your opponent, either monster, spell, or trap, at point of resolution, before being sent to the graveyard. This means that they bypass effects that prevent activation in response to things, because we don't have to activate anything to negate it all. And now you not only get to search them out, but recycle them from the grave as well. Never worry about super polymerization with this one weird trick. Branded players hate this king, and he's sharing all his secrets with you. Abyss Sting Triania is an equip spell card that lets you special summon an Atlantean or Mermail monster from your hand or graveyard, and if you do, equip it with this card. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. You can banish this card from your grave, then target up to 3 Fry types that are banished or are in the graveyard to shuffle them back into the deck. So it's a premature burial that gives the monster equipped to it destruction protection instead of needing it to stay equipped to survive. Now that's nice. This is likely one that you'll want to put back into your hand with Link Neptibus's effect instead of just equipping it outright. Though if you don't have any good revival targets or even monsters to turbo out from your hand, don't forget that part of the effect, you may just want to snap this onto Neptibus to keep him safe. And yes, it's also resource reclamation, putting your cards back into your deck from your grave or banishment. This is such a nutty inclusion to the theme, possibly one of the strongest extenders the archetype has ever seen. But if you want to make the most out of it, you've got to make sure you've got your javelin throws down pat. I mean, Neptibus didn't just wake up one day and throw tridents at creatures of the deep to revive it like that. He had to put in the reps. Part 3, Centur-Ion. Folks, The evil has been defeated. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity is no longer a threat, meaning Centur-Ion is now free to explore the rest of the level 8 and 12 Synchro pool. Now they can no longer use Crimson Dragon to lock you out of the game. They can now do such fun and exciting, varied things as using Crimson Dragon to summon out every Omni Negate under the sun. Amazing! Centur-Ion Chimeria is a level 4 Dark Pyro monster with 1200 attack and 1600 defense, and when your opponent activates a monster effect as Chainlink 2 or higher, as a quick effect, you can make the activated effect become your opponent places a Centur-Ion monster from their face-up field or graveyard in their spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous trap card. Also, you can't special summon copies of Chimeria for the rest of the turn. And if this card is being treated as a continuous trap card, you can special summon this card. That's kinda goofy. Wish you could use that first effect from the hand so it wasn't so telegraphed, but even when it's out in the field for all to see, your opponent knows they have to be careful with how they order their chain links and when they want to deploy certain hand traps. This is a pretty nifty monster to get into rotation as soon as possible to help insulate your plays. And with the variety of effects that put your Centur-Ions in the back row, you won't be short on options. Nice little addition to the theme, but I think the monster itself is kind of phoning it in. Like, if you're going to evoke the mythical Chimera, we're going to need to see a lot more monster parts there. Right now, being a bat human doesn't make you a Chimera. It barely makes you a vampire. So let's step it up next time and add in some parts like a mantis, or tortoise, or even a pangolin. You know, think outside the box for this one. Centur-Ion Primera Primus is a level 8 light spellcaster synchro tuner monster with 2600 attack and defense, requiring generic material. It can't be destroyed by battle unless it was special summoned from the extra deck. If this card is synchro summoned, you can add an emblem card from your deck or grave to your hand, then you can destroy 2 cards on the field. Hold on, 1 on each side. And if any number of Centur-Ion cards you control leave the field by an opponent's card while this card is in the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card. Oh yeah, this card is chock full of nonsense. It gets you an Emblema, and while I'm not a fan of the new Salvation, Oath is still a fantastic way to get your cards into rotation and helps ensure Atre's draw effect goes off. To say nothing of the fact that this also comes with a little Scrap Dragon effect to help with removal. Though, if Primera is in the back row, you don't necessarily have to give up anything to destroy your opponent's card. It's also cool that we have another light synchro tuner monster to help bridge the gap with White Forest, a theme that people have been experimenting with Centur-Ion for a bit, since not only do both themes care about synchro summoning, the Centur-Ions becoming trap cards gives you great fuel for your White Forest monster summons. So now, instead of going into Diabel, you can go into Primera Primus to go grab an Emblema, which will help get you into your Centur-Ion cards to really blend the two themes together. But even without that combo, it's really just nice to have a level 8 synchro monster that we can go into as kind of a stepping stone synchro monster. It's true that we have plenty of level 8 monsters in the main board, but having access to not only one that's that big from the extra, but a tuner as well is incredible, and I'm sure will be a staple of playlines moving forward. You could say that the player base will subscribe to Primus. Part 4. Fiendsmith. Wow, this is a loaded section. Fiendsmith has been a huge contributor to how lame Yu-Gi-Oh feels to play at the time of recording. It's expensive, so not many people can play them, despite how many engines actually benefit from its inclusion. But at the top of the pile, the things Fiendsmith can do for your theme is unreal. So much so that one of the more iconic fusions of the theme, Lacrima, is already banned. Now, eventually there's going to be a time where these cards are going to have to be played as their own theme. So what do these new cards add to that mix? Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, is a level 4 light fiend monster with 1200 attack and defense that's always treated as a Fiendsmith card. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Fiendsmith card from your deck to the grave except a copy of this card. And during your opponent's turn, if this card is in your grave as a quick effect, you can target a Fiendsmith Link monster in your graveyard, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, special summon that Link monster. Now, we don't have many targets for this, but a few of our spells and traps actually have some neat grave effects, ranging from fusion summoning to setting up Sanct for some tokens. And then, you get to bring back Requiem from your graveyard for more summons during your opponent's turn, Sequence during your opponent's end phase to avoid it getting hit because it doesn't have a quick effect, or a third option that's going to come up here in just a second. With this card's release, we finally have a second, and thankfully good, summon target off of Requiem, setting you up for future success. And with that, it's basically all I can say about Yu-Gi-Oh! Misa Amane over here before I start getting downright demonetizable. Fiendsmith's Agnum Day is a Link 3 Light Fiend monster with 1800 attack, requiring 2 or more monsters, including a Light Fiend monster, as material. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can target a non-Link Light Fiend monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And if you do, equip this card you control to that monster as an equipped spell with the following effects. First, the equipped monster gains attack equal to the total Link rating of Link monsters equipped to it times 600, and second, it deals piercing battle damage. This means you can summon back Engraver with this equipped, granting it an 800 attack boost all by itself. So not only is that 3600 attack by itself, the fact that our other Fiendsmith Link monsters can themselves equip for free from the graveyard pushes that attack stat even higher. And with that piercing damage, all those boosts are going to go right to your opponent's life points whether they like it or not. And combined with Crimson Tears, you've almost always got a big body to keep you safe. You just shuffle back Lacrima to bring this back from the graveyard, revive another Light Fiend, and if that gets dealt with, all you need to do is find another way to get Crimson Tears into the grave again to start it all up. This adds a kind of aggro inevitability to the deck, which may be where the designers intended for the theme to go all along, after we, stop jamming them into every combo you can think of. And that's all I can say about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Version of the Colossal Titan over here before I get stupendously demonetizable. Part 5. Fire Kings. I suppose the dev team wanted to wait until we got the Merlantean cards before we imported the promo for their sworn enemy. I'm not sure how the pretty ladies line up with the rest of the Fire King monsters, but hey, support. Fire King Courtier Ulcanix is a level 4 Fire Winged Beast monster with 800 attack and 2000 defense, and if this card is normal or special summoned, you can destroy one other fire monster in your hand or face-up field, and if you do, add a fire attribute Tri-type monster from your deck to your hand, except a copy of this card. Then, you can make this monster's level the Added Monsters. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Fire King High Avatar Garunix from your deck in defense position. That's the original Big Garunix, just to be clear. This gives you another enabler for your on-destruction effects while filtering into a new card, and getting Fire King High Avatar Kieran with this is the perfect usage. Ulcanix will become a level 8 once you search it, then you pop another monster to get Kieran onto the board, and there you go, that's a rank 8 right there. And if you're jonesing to play the original Big Garunix, which isn't too far out of left field, you have an option to get it into rotation immediately. I'm still a little hung up on why we have a bird lady here, but hey, now wait a minute, that emblem on the shrine, that looks an awful lot like the ring that the Atlanteans have that holds the spirit of their ancient forebears, and we can actually see both of them together in firestorms over Atlantis. Oh god, all the Fire King avatars are secretly waifus! The public must be made to know! Part 6. Gimmick Puppets. Kinda. Today's addition to the Child's Play FTK deck is much more of a free agent for Xyz decks than anything else. However, it is searchable by the effect of Fnatic's Machinex because it is a puppet trap card. So, looks like we're including this. And fittingly enough, it's another Zexal fanservice card. Puppet Shark is a normal trap card that has you detaching a material from a monster on the field, and if you do, you excavate the top 4 cards of your deck. Choose one of them, and then apply the following effects based on what type of card it is, placing the rest of the cards on top of your deck in the same order. If the chosen card is a monster or a spell, you add it to your hand. If it's a trap card, you set it to your field, and you can activate it this turn. So what we have here is an off-brand version of Absolute King Backjack, right down to setting a trap card from the deck and letting you use it right away. That's not a bad effect, but in the context of Gimmick Puppets, it just feels disjointed from the rest of the deck. Gimmick Puppets do have 2 trap cards of their own, but between those two, only Service Puppet Play actually sees any use, and even then, you're probably going to add that over Puppet Shark anyway. If anything, this card is a much better fit for Labyrinth, since it can domino effect into an avalanche of advantage just by being a normal trap card, and potentially gets you another trap that you can use. Although there does need to be an Xyz monster on board to use this card, so I wish them the best of luck actually getting it to work. Thankfully, we don't have to exclusively grab purple cards with this. If you peel a hand trap or a board breaker off of your deck, for instance, you can add that instead, even if you end up telegraphing it. And if Vanquish Souls can do it, so can we. You also have the option of crushing a material from your opponent's Xyz monsters, which is very funny. As for what this card is a reference to, it's how Quattro manipulated Shark into getting disqualified during their match in the National Duel Circuit. He does this by letting his deck fall off a table and leading Shark to accidentally look at 4 cards. And the reference doesn't stop there, because the last move that was made during the duel was Quattro setting a card. Mirror Force by Shark's guess, and lo and behold, that's exactly what Puppet Shark allows you to do! Now, say what you will about how Konami's made Gimmick Puppets into a vehicle for, debatably, the most hated playstyle in the game, but it's hard to deny that cards like this let them embody the spirit of Quattro himself, in the sense that they love spoiling their fans. Part 7. Memento. Well, this is unprecedented. This is the 4th core set in a row that's contained Memento support. That's a year of Memento. That's the power of Tri-Horn Dragon, folks. But given some of the text that people are running to contend with the meta right now, Memento needs all the help it can get. So let's take a look at what we got this time and see if it's on a similar level to last set's cards. Mementotlin Akihiran is a level 5 water aqua monster with 1700 attack and 1400 defense, and it's based on Akihiran, another member of the normal monsters that we never got in the TCG section of the Memento lineup. You can activate its first effect when it's normal or special summoned, which will allow all of your level 9 and higher Memento monsters to attack directly for the rest of the turn. If it's destroyed by a card effect, you can target another Memento card in your grave or banishment and add it to your hand, and if a Memento monster in your hand or on the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect while it's in your graveyard, you can special summon it. Now, we're not looking at a starter card, so it's unlikely you'll be playing more than one copy of this card. But boy howdy is it one heck of an option, because it helps to cover a crippling weakness that Memento has, losing monsters to the banishment, especially combined creation, since our game plan falls apart if we lose access to it. Now, it's not going to deliver you from Dimension Shifter antics, but for anything that allows banishing for single cards like your Bestials or your SP Little Knights or your DD Crows, it's more than capable of turning the tide back on your opponent. Not to mention that we can scoop up any of our on-theme cards with this recycling effect. And that makes Mementotlin Fusion Spell and Trap Search even better, because you'll theoretically never run out of copies once you have Akihiran in circulation. And getting it onto the board via its effect is easy. Just playing your deck properly will make it happen. And from there we can pop it for the recycle effect, or use it as fusion or link material. Heck, maybe even rank 5 material with Tatsuno Toshigo if you're feeling spicy. And if that wasn't enough, its on-summon effect pretty much lets you disregard any established board during the battle phase. Granted, it only works on our Tekutlika monsters at time of recording, but combined Creation and Creation King do total exactly 8,000, assuming you haven't had to spend any of its attack points on Cranium Burst's effect. So, as long as your Yubel opponent doesn't have Nightmare Pain deployed, they're gonna have a really rude wake-up call once you hit the battle phase. But now, I want to briefly chat about something in the Memento lore. That's right, one of the many lore books actually has a section for the Memento, and one such piece of information is that Tri-Horn Dragon gets really insecure about how scary his face is. Oh, my little guy. Now I personally headcanon that all of that teasing comes out of this thing's ugly mug in order to make itself feel better about its own face. My little guy's getting extra snackums after all the stuff he's had to put up with. Oh my god. Part 8. Performage. Probably one of the biggest winners out of the most recent Animation Chronicles set, Performages better get their updated stuff soon, because at this rate, their relevance is going to slip away faster than my audience after I've made my 8th terrible pun in a video. Thankfully, Rage of the Abyss is here to help keep things moving along with the help of balls! Performage Ball Balancer is a level 4 Earth Spellcaster Pendulum monster with 1000 attack and 1800 defense, hello Alistair stats, with a scale of 3. As a spell card, during your main phase, you can send a Performage Pendulum monster from your Face Up extra deck to the grave, then you can increase this card's pendulum scale by the sent monsters, helping you to get a high scale. As a monster, if you control a Performage monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, when your opponent's special summoned monster declares a direct attack, you can special summon this monster from your grave. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can either add a Performage Pendulum monster from your deck to your Face Up extra deck, or destroy a Performage monster card that you control. The destroying your own card effects make sense here, Plush Fire exists after all, and is unbanned. But what's going on with the rest of these effects? Well, sending Performages from your Face Up extra deck to the graveyard must be for some off-theme purpose of setting them up in a zone that's more accessible, because all of our new Pendulum monsters actually do want to interact with the mechanic. Which is why the Foolish Burial-ish effect is pretty nice. Special summon this next to a Performage, fill up your extra deck, and now you have enough material for maybe a rank 4 play, maybe a link 2 play. Beyond the Pendulum is still pretty strong. This also lets Ball Balancer end up in your graveyard, so you can summon it in response to an opponent's special summoned monster's direct attack. It's a pretty unwieldy card, but not too terrible of one. It could really stand to stay on the ball a bit better though. Part 9. Ragnaraika. Continuing the new trend of making themes based on 3 tight-knit types, Ragnaraika has arrived once again, but not with a monster, but a trap card that thinks it's a monster. It's all the restrictions of being tied to a tri-type of the game's least represented monsters with none of the fun. Yay! Now, it is a pretty good overlap engine for these numerous themes. Now I just need to try and make those cards as impactful as possible. Ragnaraika Wisteria of Woe is a continuous trap card that, when activated, special summons itself as a level 4 Dark Plant normal monster with 1600 attack and 0 defense, and is still treated as a trap card. Then, if you control a Ragnaraika Link monster, you can banish up to 2 cards from your opponent's grave. And if this card is in your grave during your end phase, you can shuffle 2 Cry types from your grave or banishment into your deck, and if you do, set this card. Oh, okay then. We don't just get a DD Crow effect out of this card, we get a double DD Crow. And it's searchable by Mantis Monk. Not to mention it doesn't even target. So whenever Fiendsmith Engraver, or any grave-crazed deck for that matter, tries to get up to some shenanigans while you've got one of your on-theme links on board, you can flip Wisteria over and kick him into the banishment, alongside any other card that promises to be an issue. Not to mention that this is a continuous trap card monster, so as a bonus, you can either use it for link climbing, or bringing back some of your link monsters from the graveyard to help close the game out. Or it can just act as a blocker if you're in a pinch. All of that would have been good enough, but Wisteria can even reset itself by putting your banished Cry types back into your deck, and both Mantis Monk searching either this or Hunting Dance, and Selene Snapper destroying your opponent's back row is going to ensure that you have plenty of ammo for this. So your opponent had best be careful about what they're doing with their grave whenever you have this card in rotation. Otherwise you're going to make a real nasty example of them. Here's a hint, that tree over there doesn't grow skulls. Someone put them there. And if you're lucky, it could be you. Part 10. 6 Samurai. Whoa, this came out of nowhere, at least for me. A new wave of 6 Sam support has arrived on our shores, bolstering characters both new and old. Will we finally get a resolution to this tale? God, I wish that was the case. This story's never gonna be over, is it? Tactical Trainer of the 6 Samurai is a level 2 Earth Warrior tuner monster with 200 attack and 1200 defense. And if you control a 6 Samurai monster other than a copy of this card, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a 6 strike card from your deck or grave to your hand, and a 6 Samurai monster that was synchro summoned using this card as material gains the following effect. Monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack. Finally, we've got a tuner that actually summons itself! I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole lining up attack powers to use asceticism correctly is kind of fun, but just having a guy that gets you into your synchros makes them so much more accessible. As for what it does beyond making Shien, grabbing a 6-strike card is pretty dope. Thunder Blast is kinda nifty if you have consistent Bushido counter access, which, you know, we'll never get that. And Triple Impact isn't a board wipe per se, but does give you a lot of removal for doing what you'd want to do already. We have another 6 strike card coming up later in this video, so we'll see if it's worth running that as part of the loadout, but the attack debuff effect is also fantastic, making our monsters even more resilient to combat. This is an all-around fantastic option for the theme, and despite my backhanded asceticism comment earlier, does match Fuma and pre-boost Kageki, so it's a great piece of support while respecting the established pool of cards. But where in the world did this guy come from? The Secret 6 Samurai came out of left field too, but those were ninjas, that makes sense. Everything else comes with some kind of attachment to the wider lore, and I don't remember anyone with big bushy eyebrows walking around. Anarchist Monk of the 6 Samurai is a level 3 Dark Warrior Tuner monster with 500 attack and 0 defense, and like Trainer, if you control a 6 Samurai monster other than a copy of this card, you can special summon this card from your hand. If sent from the field to the grave, you can add a 6 Samurai Quick Play spell card from your deck to your hand, and a 6 Samurai Synchro monster using this card as material gains the following effect. The levels of all monsters your opponent controls are reduced by 1. So this works a lot like Tactical Trainer, but with some key differences. The higher level does change up your synchro math, and 500 is a less splashable stat line in regards to asceticism. As for the quick play spells we can search with this, asceticism is the most explosive, but if you've gotten to the point where you're using this, you may not have any targets left. Cunning is a nice way to swap samurais between your field and graveyard, and secret skills can get your banished 6 samurais back into rotation. Useful for all these secret 6 samurai as they keep banishing themselves for their protection. But probably the strangest effect here is the lingering one you give to your synchros. Level reduction? What's going on here? Like, it does hurt opposing Synchro and Xyz strategies by messing with their math, but it's such a niche counter that it hardly ever comes up in a meaningful way. I don't know. I'm sure there are some formats where you'll have to keep track of this, but as the resident anarchist monk, I think it's just trying to do its own thing. And hey, more power to you. It turns out that Shien is kind of a jerk. Legendary Lord 6 Samurai Inishi is a level 6 light warrior synchro monster with 1700 attack and 1200 defense, requiring generic material. While on the field, warrior monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense during the battle phase only, and if this card is synchro summoned, you can banish any number of 6 samurai monsters from your grave, then target that many monsters your opponent controls and return those monsters to the hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one of your banished 6 samurai monsters. Okay, this card rules. In evolution of Inishi's bouncing effect from their legendary days, this trades out the quick effect bounce with a mass removal version. If you use 2 6 samurais as synchro material for this, then you've already got at least 2 bounces loaded up. And now that the way is open, Inishi also boosts your warriors to make them even more effective in combat to help close things out. And if that wasn't enough, this guy gets you back a banished 6 samurai if you lose it. Throw in some cards that perform quick synchros and you might be able to use this during your opponent's turn, presenting a masterful maneuver that your opponent won't be able to recover from. Ooh, but we know that Inishi and Kizan have a big rivalry because of Gozen match, and if Kizan finds out that Inishi got the Lord treatment before he did, ooh, he's gonna be so mad. Legendary Lord 6 Samurai Shien is a level 6 Dark Warrior Synchro monster with 2500 attack and 1900 defense, requiring a Warrior Tuner and 1 or more non-tuner 6 Samurai monsters as material. If this card is Synchro summoned, you can add a 6 Samurai monster or Shien effect monster from your deck or grave to your hand. Worded that way to prevent you from searching Kagemusha of the Blue Flame, look it up, it's in the 6 Samurai video I made, it's very funny trivia. And once per turn when your opponent activates a monster effect as a quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And if this card on the field would be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can destroy another monster you control instead. That's right, after 13 years, they printed the version of Shien that negates monster effects instead of spells and traps. Now, that does feel downright heretical, because every version of Shien before this has always dealt with spell and trap cards, but, I mean, the resemblance here is uncanny. It has the same attack and synchro material requirements, but is 1 level higher and has 500 more defense. The protection effect also lets you destroy any other monster, not just another 6 samurai, which is pretty cool, and it gets you a search when synchro summoned. And while that effect is a hard once per turn, the monster negate is not. so the more Lord Xians you can put on the field, the more monsters you can say no to. This is going to be a key card when it comes to insulating and extending your early plays, as well as accomplishing the goal of annoying the bejesus out of your opponent. You'll be grinning ear to ear just like Xian is. Look at this guy having fun. It's almost enough to make you forget that they're a conquering warlord possessed by a devil of blood. 6 Strike Double Assault is a quick play spell card that has you applying one of these 2 effects, or if you control 2 or more 6 Samurai monsters, which is one of the easiest conditions to fulfill ever, you can apply both effects in sequence. First, you can special summon a 6 Samurai monster with 2,000 or less attack from your hand or grave, and second, change a monster your opponent controls with 2,000 or less attack to face down defense position. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your grave, then target a 6 Samurai monster in your grave and add it to your hand. You can only use one effect of this card per turn, and only once per turn. Okay, yeah, this card is the real deal. It already had me at summoning back 6 Samurais from the grave, but it's also a Book of Moon and it recovers you cards? Now, you can't search this with Anarchist Monk because, despite being a quick play spell, it's not a 6 Samurai quick play spell, but Tactical Trainer can. And being itself a 6 Samurai monster, you already have a target for revival that is a tuner. This card is going to be dope, both as a way to extend your plays and interrupt your opponents. And to top it all off, it's got Shinai and Mizuho working together on the art. Let's go! Part 11, Tenpai. Yeah, sure, make more of the cards everyone's upset about. Good move there. I mean, I'm so done with them that's all the effort I'm putting into this intro section. I just want this over with. Songen Furo is a continuous spell card that, once per turn, when a monster is destroyed by battle involving your Fire Dragon monster, you can target one of those destroyed monsters and special summon it to your field in defense position. During your opponent's end phase, you can pay 1,000 life points, then target a Songen spell or trap card in your grave and set it, but banish it when it leaves the field. So, what are we trying to accomplish here with what appears to be a molten lava field full of mahjong bricks? I mean, my first thought is, oh, we stole a monster and we can do synchro summoning during the battle phase, so when we take something, we can just sync up with it, right? But A, the deck is already too good at putting together material without relying on your opponent, and B, if you want to use this after activating Genroku, you won't even be able to summon anything unless you destroyed a dragon, because you're going to be dragon locked at that point. And like, setting a Songen spell or trap card during your opponent's end phase sounds really good. We have some super strong ones. Being able to recycle is one of the things that makes decks good, right? But you're supposed to not get the duel that far. Your opponent should be dead by then. They should be deader than the guy from Home Alone 2 who got pelted by bricks. Seriously, how did that guy survive getting hit with all of those? Has anyone ever tried to power scale the Wet Bandits? How do they compare with the Dark Scorpions? This is vital information to know. Part 12, Union. Time for another installment of light machine monsters that equip to other monsters for various effects. Though I guess I should be thankful in terms of classification, at least this one had the decency to call itself a Union monster, and not just another in a long line of cards related by mechanics and not by names. It makes the whole explaining business a lot more organized. Union Pilot is a level 5 light machine Union monster with 2100 attack and 1000 defense. It has the usual Union text, equipping to any effect monster, and you can return this card equipped to a monster to your hand to equip an appropriate banished Union monster to one monster you control as an equipped spell, as if it were equipped by that Union monster's effect. And if you do, special summon this card from your hand. Okay, so this one is kind of a doozy. Union Driver has been around as a way to cheat your Union monsters into play via Union Hanger. That card has a stipulation that makes it so you can't special summon the Union monster you equip via its own effect, but if you equipped Driver, its own effect can equip a different Union that you want to summon because Driver has no such restriction on it. But now that Driver is banished, so what we can do now is have Union Hanger equip a Driver to any of our Light Machine Union monsters, then have Driver banish itself to instead equip Pilot, as long as the monster it's equipped to is an effect monster. Then return Pilot to the hand to equip the Driver back from the banishment, summoning out the Pilot, and now you can summon the Union Driver from your spell and trap zone because now it's a different copy of the card and is thus not beholden to the restriction on Union Hanger. And would you look at that, you've got 2 level 5 light machine monsters on your board, giving you instant access to Cyber Dragon Infinity. Alternatively, you do banish a lot of the ABC and XYZ kind of cards over the course of the game. So the general idea, I think, is to recycle those cards, but the fact that you've always got an absorbing Omni-Negate in your back pocket is pretty nifty. And look, they even employed one of Elon's robot bartenders as the pilot up. How futuristic. Part 13, Vaalmonica. Last but certainly not least, we've got the most inventive pendulum theme we've had in a long time, save for Nemlyria. The resonance counter mechanic is a fantastic addition to the game, and I love seeing how the theme builds up its game plan through healing or harm. And now, the theme just got even better. Vaalmonica Hereditare is a counter-trap card that can be activated in response to a spell card, trap card, or monster effect while you control a Vaalmonica Link monster. Negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. You can also banish this card from the graveyard to shuffle into your deck Vaalmonica cards from your face-up extra deck, grave, and or banishment, except copies of this card, up to the number of resonance counters on your field. Then draw a card for every 3 cards shuffled back. So, as an example, if you have 6 resonance counters on your field, you can shuffle back up to 6 of your Vaalmonica cards from your face-up extra deck, grave, or banishment, and if you shuffle back all 6, you get to draw 2 cards. If you only shuffle back 3, 4, or 5, you draw 1. This allows you to get your resources back into rotation and provides some killer draw power. Not to mention that you now have a searchable Omni-Negate as long as you have access to your links. It's a perfect addition to add to the control aspects of the deck, but I can see that they used up all their budget to make this card, as they didn't have enough to afford a scrying pool with even a crumb of resolution. Like, come on, how are you gonna tell who's gonna inherit your awesome might in 144p? And that's everything I've got to say about the new cards coming out of ROTA. It's early days for the format to be sure, but some preliminary tournament reports are showing a decent variety in the metagame that's been lacking for some time. Here's hoping that continues to grow thanks to the new cards introduced in this set, and be sure to keep an eye out for coverage of another Rage of the Abyss archetype that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Let's just say that it's been some time since I've done some dungeon delving. But until then, what's your favorite part about ROTA? Any cards or themes you're looking forward to? Let me know down below, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and get 5% off your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. It was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, Upstairs Media and Natiel Lee Alexander, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, 50 Gigabytes, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Owexotoa Hime, Anansi Dragon, Ancient Wizard, Andrew Newman, Battle Axe, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Eric, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Great Big Pillock, Hair Bear, Happy Majin, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Mana Charge, Miriam James E. Picata, Megacombi is entering the Chrysalis, Millennia Asta, Muse Clark, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Pat Poos, Rank 10 Trains, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, The Critic of Innocence, Thievery Coast and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Animasta, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Beelzephyr, Fish, Beluga Masta, Blitzwolf, Caesar M, Chaz Ghost, Dr. Reaper RIP, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True Draco Slayer, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, Lobomaru 02, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, Mick Spoofy, Mike, Nitromo, Not Al Gore, Nyx, Obsidian, Pokemon, Rainer Leong, Rhyme Kairos, Shizuka Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, The Legendary Raven, The Phantom Knights of Shitted Pants, The Gene, Tiger X2476, Weasel King of Weaseltown, and Ragnaraika, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you would check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you want to catch up on the latest lore archetype from Rage of the Abyss, check out this video I made covering Azamina. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.